Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Wizard World Virtual Experiences as the crowd virtually applauds wildly. Let me hear it out there. We can't actually hear you, but we can feel the love from around the globe tuning into these amazing virtual experiences. We are streaming live. My name is Mike G. I am your host, and on behalf of Wizard World, we welcome you once again streaming live for free on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. Then we'll be posting various clips and fun things on Wizard World's Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter page. Thank you for joining us. Welcome. We're very excited to bring you this next anime cast out in just a few minutes. But a quick reminder, not only can you participate for free with this live panel, there are also some paid one-on-one once-in-a-lifetime experiences you can participate in as well. Just head to wizd.me/virtual. Once again, that's wizd.me/virtual. It's also on the bottom of the screen here to interact with live one-on-one video chats, autographs, and video recorded messages with all these amazing actors. In addition to that, you can head to the Wizard World Vault. It's kind of like a digital convention hall, if you will. This is the digital panel room. Then we move to the digital convention hall. Head to wizardworldvault.com. You'll find memorabilia, art from our vendors and artists there from past virtual experiences and past conventions. So again, check that out as well. That is the wizardworldvault.com. Y'all, I'm very excited. I don't know. I know I was just chatting with a bunch of people on Twitch just a second ago. This is a very cool series that is up and coming. It obviously started out as a series of novels that then were translated to manga and turned into the very first season of an anime series, followed by a film, and then Funimation took it over as they do so well here in the States and gave us a dub version. We're about to bring out those English-speaking dub actors for this amazing series that I know a bunch of you just binge-watched within the last couple of years. So please welcome the cast of Goblin Slayer. You know them from countless Funimation voice dubs, but they are known to us as the following characters. First up, the Goblin Slayer himself. Please welcome Brad Hawkins.
What's up, gang? How's everybody doing?
What up, Brad? Sick fig there you got in the foreground.
Yeah, I got a little foreground figure here.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's hear it next for the priestess. Let's hear it for Hayden Devio.
Hello.
There she is.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having us.
All right, the next member of the party is, of course, High Elf Archer. Let's hear it for Mallory Rodak.
Hi, everyone. Hello. You like my 2 moons?
I do. 2 moons.
Mallory, we're going to talk about that. You brought up a controversial topic on Twitter that I know the fans are excited to chat about. So thanks for throwing that up there. All right, next up is Witch, just solely known as Witch. But
Witch.
We love her. Let's give it up for Amanda Gish.
What's up, Amanda?
Hey.
Hello,
How's everyone
Amanda.
doing?
And last but certainly not least, Cowgirl. Let's hear it for Brittany Lauda.
Hi.
Hey, Brittany. Thank you for joining us. Thank you all so much for being here. We are streaming live around the globe on Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. And so it's very cool to see you all in the comfort and safety of your homes chatting with the fans. We appreciate you being here.
It's great to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm super excited.
Thanks for having us.
I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, of course. I briefly chatted about this a little bit before we all came on live here, but I know myself and then a bunch of the fans that are watching on Twitch in anticipation of this cool panel and some of the other series that we've been covering, the other anime series, binge watch the heck out of this. You can get it all on Amazon Prime right now. The whole simuldub is there in addition to the original version. I watch both just because I'm a nerd like that, and I like to see how it plays, in different languages. But how exciting to be chatting with you all, not after season 7 or season 8 or, 10 years after the third movies come out, but like at the original, the beginning, the inception of this series that I believe personally has the potential to become that next 7-season, 8-season anime series that we all know and love. So I'd just love to hear a little bit from each of you about your experience getting cast in the piece and then feeling that sort of already fan love. It's definitely got like a cult status going on in the background. A lot of rumblings from fans comparing it to other things and like contrasting it. So again, I'd just love to hear about your excitement with this piece and season 1 so far.
Who's gonna lead off?
I was gonna say, I was like, you go first, Brad. You're the like, go first.
Well, my thing is, I mean, we've been a lot of these other amazing voice actors. We've been working together at Funimation, so we'll on other, you know, either minor or major characters on different series. So we'll pass each other in the hall. We kind of know of each other's work, but it was my first chance working with them on this series, and I auditioned, you know, for Goblin Slayer and a couple other characters. And they didn't even call me and tell me that I got the gig. It was just like, hey, you got studio time booked. It's like 4 hours, which for me is that's a bigger session than I'm used to. And because sometimes I'm security guard number 7 in one series, you know, and demon number 5 on another show. So I was like, wow, that's a session right there. And I get in there and you know, meet with the director, and we're all, and I'm like, what character am I playing? She's like, oh, you're Goblin Slayer. I'm like, well, thanks for letting me know. I mean, that was pretty big for me. I was my agent didn't say anything. They didn't say anything. Next thing I know, I'm in the booth and I'm, you know, doing the voice. I was honored. It was really cool. And then once I got in there, I found out more about the history leading up to where we took it over at Funimation. And yeah, man, it was a lot of controversy. It's pretty dark. And I was in once I got in the booth and started seeing. I was shocked. Like in the first 5 minutes of dubbing, I was like, wow, this is just hitting the gas, no warm up or nothing. This thing's taking off and it's racy, and I was bought in.
I remember my first experience starting off for episode 1, and we get the young, you know, adventurers, and they're at like level porcelain, and they're like looking to like level up, and I'm like, okay, cool, classic anime RPG style. And then during that first adventure, woo, man, the stuff that goes down. And yeah, I mean, my gosh, let's hear from the rest of you. Just like your first experience, and then shooting those first scenes and those very controversial and very graphic, obviously, like opening scenes.
Oh gosh, well, it was my first audition at Funimation. I'd only been there for like less than a year at that point, so I'd done like a lot of bit parts, like Brad said, like little characters. I was like little message board in a show here, little screaming kid in this show, and I wasn't expecting to get an audition at all, because I was so new, but I was really grateful. I went in for our director. I auditioned for Priestess, I think High Elf Archer, Witch, and she like tried me on a couple things, and she kept bringing me back to Priestess, and I was like, okay, cool. And I went out there, I was like, gosh, she had me read for this character a lot. Like, was I that bad? Was I not like hitting it? Oh well, glad I got to audition. And I was at a convention, and I got an email. It's like, hey, you have 3 hours this day, and we need you for another 3 hours the next day. I was like, oh, that's a lot of hours. I don't know what character talks that much. And my friend looks at me. He's like, dude, you're the Priestess. That's the only character. I was like, I don't know. And I went in, and ta-da, I'm Priestess. I was really excited. And going on that first episode journey with her was a lot.
Oh my gosh.
It was a lot of clenched teeth reaction of the entire time my cheeks hurt after that first session. But it was really good. And I think I went home and took a nap just because I was so emotionally drained after that first session. Because it's a lot and it's dark. But I grew up on like Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. I'm a big Dungeons and Dragons nerd.
Yep.
So this kind of show was right up my alley, and I loved every second of it.
Yeah, it's the perfect description of it. I think an amalgamation of like a D&D, like a live D&D game being played, mixed with like the characters and the elements and the world of like Lord of the Rings, for sure. Well,
well, for me, I remember like getting the text for the audition, and it was very like, you can't turn this audition down. Like it has a lot of controversial things, and I was like, I need money. I ended up looking it up, and I watched the first episode because I wanted to see like what type, like if it was just making fun of it, if it was meaningful, if it whatever. And then as soon as I saw that it was like, because I'm very into Dungeons and Dragons as well. As soon as I saw, I was like, oh, okay. So this is a dark fantasy. Yeah, and I saw it and I was like, okay, I can do this. And me and Hayden actually watched it together. Yeah. We actually watched the first episode together because we were like, do we audition? And we were like, yes. And so I was like, yes, I want to audition. And I actually was going for High Elf Archer. That's the character that I originally thought that that's the one that I wanted. And then she was like, before you go, just, I don't know much about this character, but do your sexiest voice. And I was like, okay. So I did. And then I believe she comes in basically episode 3. Only episode 3, but I think episode 2 she has like a or something like that. But episode 3, and I was like, okay, she is not just sexy, she has a lot of stuff going on. And it's definitely one of the hardest characters I have voiced for in terms of flaps, because she talks so slow. But as soon as I dubbed her, I like did all this research that I could on her, because I found her so interesting, and I instantly fell in love with her and was so glad that I was cast as her.
Very cool. Thank you.
So I direct at Funimation in addition to acting there. And so I had read for Goblin Slayer, and the director had me read the characters that were auditionable, and then she had me do a few passes of both characters' lines as in like different voices, because like Amanda said, like, oh well, like do this in a sexy voice, do this in this kind of voice. So she had me do that a few times, and then I went on my way, worked on my show, and we work on a very fast schedule at Funimation, and problems happen all the time. Like things just happen, like, oh, there's a tornado and we're closing the studio, or like, oh, there was a tech issue or something. And I'm turning in my hour sheet, and the director is talking to the producer, and she's like, oh my God, this issue, blah, blah, blah. Like with episode 1. And it was something about like, Brad's character, whether it was like, oh, like we had to cancel a session or something, and I just made an offhanded joke. I was like, it's okay, I can play Goblin Slayer for you, it's fine. And she turns to me, she's like, no, you can't, because you're cowgirl. I was like, what? Who is a cowgirl? Because I didn't really know much about the show. Like I watched episode 1, but that's about as far as I got. And then I got scheduled the next week for like a ton of hours, because episode 2, Cowgirl shows up and narrates a ton, and she's like got her younger self and her regular self. When a friend of mine had told me all about Goblin Slayer, like not like probably like 3 or 4 months before we did the show, he was like, oh, I'm really excited about the show coming out. And so when I auditioned, I was like, oh, I read for the show, and he's like, I hope you get to play best girl. And I was like, okay, I don't know what the fuck that means, but whatever. And then I texted him when I was told, oh, you're going to be cowgirl. And I was like, oh, I'm playing cowgirl. And he's like, you're the best girl. She's the best. And so yeah, I was like, cool. She's cute. I like her. But she's like way higher pitch in the Japanese version than what we went and did. And like when I was brought in for it, she was like, we're not doing that. Like I want you to sound like a pleasant adult. And I was like, okay. So yeah.
That's what's so funny. You mentioned, you all have briefly mentioned like doing bit parts in other anime series, like, you know, like Sergeant Number 1. Or so what's funny about this series is they all have those generic names like purposefully. So yeah, on paper, you're like, cowgirl, that's going to be a random part. You know what I mean? And then one of the biggest characters. Mallory, you heard it first here from Amanda. Amanda wanted High Elf, and then you took it. Tell us
about If anybody needed it, it was her.
If I can just say, I don't think anyone could do a witch like you did. You did a phenomenal job. So yeah, kudos to you. Yeah, I wasn't familiar with Goblin Slayer to begin with, but I had a similar experience as Brad and Hayden, where I came into the studio, and it was interesting because each director sort of has their own studio. So if you go to Studio A or Studio B or F, you kind of understand maybe what you might be recording. And our director, Tabitha, was in a different studio. And so I went into that studio and I said, oh, are we going to record this other show? And she's like, no, Mallory, you're High Elf Archer. You got it. And I was like, oh, I had no idea. I just came in thinking I was going to work on something completely different. But I was super excited because around the same time in my life, I was sort of discovering D&D. I had never really played before, but I was getting really into it. So it was this kind of perfect marriage of two things that I was really loving. So I was stoked.
Nice. Adept, just because we're talking about it, on Twitch, Adept Sue Raven wants to know from the D&D players, what classes do you normally play as?
I always play mage or spellcaster, so I thought it was perfect that I was witch because I'm always either a sorceress or a witch.
It really depends for me. In one of my main campaigns, I'm playing a gnome barbarian.
Nice.
And in another one, I'm playing a tiefling blood hunter, but I am playing a cleric in one because after priestess, I was like, clerics are actually really strong in D&D.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna give this a go. So I like to play a little bit of everything and try out a little bit of everything. I just started playing a monk, so that's gonna be fun.
Oh, you're all over the place a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
Hayden, but that's okay. That's part of the fun of D&D. You can do that. You know what I mean? Any other classes out there? Favorite classes?
Because I am new, I play fighter. There was a podcast, the Dungeon Booth, that I had an opportunity to be a part of. It's just voice actors playing D&D. It's a ton of fun if you haven't seen it. But I felt like fighter was probably pretty safe for me because I didn't know, how to cast spells and all of this. So fighter all the way.
Nice.
I don't play D&D, but anytime I play an MMO, like I used to be on and off into World of Warcraft for like the last years of my life, and I would always play a caster of some sort, whether it was like a druid or a warlock. And I haven't played D&D proper, but I've played like different games where you still pick a class, different board games, often with Rico Fajardo, who is a huge gamer, voice actor, friend of ours, and I always play a caster of some sort in that too.
Yeah. We're all friends. Tabletop versus MMO fan. We're all friends, you know what I mean? Exactly. Brad, are you into the tabletop gaming or like RPGs or anything like that?
I never was, and it was funny. I was going to ask Hayden because we did a panel, our first Comic-Con, and somebody brought that up, and they were like, "What would you play?" And I asked Hayden. I was like, "I need to yield to Hayden because she knows all about this." And you called me as a bork or an orc or something, and they started dying. They started dying laughing, and I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing.
I still stand by the fact that I think you would be a great bard. That's what I said.
I'm a bard.
Brad the bard, and you'd be brilliant.
Yeah,
bard.
I think it's just you just spelling my name differently. I did Bard, Brad Bard. It makes perfect sense.
He's dyslexic. It's okay. I am too.
Brad the Bard. Brad the Bard.
It's not a far stretch from reality, you know.
Don't underestimate the bards.
Bards are great.
Yeah, exactly. They have a lot that they can do in the game.
And I'll tell you, I'll give it up to Hayden because when we did that panel together, if anybody in the cast, any viewers right now or anybody in the cast wants to know what happened at what minute in the episode, what the arc was, where we start, middle, finish. She knows every minute to the show. I was blown away with how just locked into everybody's character. I mean, drives, what their focus was, what their arc was. I was like, you just got it.
Well, that's a great segue.
I love this show.
Yeah, no, that's a great segue, Brad, because a specific question from Sunny the Unfunny on Twitter. And Sunny the Unfunny, you asked a ton of great questions, and we're not going to get to all of them. But one I want to definitely get to is how well you all knew. Obviously, we've already pinned Hayden as the expert, but there are, we're just starting season 1 of the anime, but my gosh, they started as light novels first, then mangas, then the film. How little or much do you all know about the original source material, kind of heading into the voice acting or even afterwards, once this season 1 started to become popular?
I have a friend who's really into a lot of anime and a lot of like light novels and manga and stuff. So He's been the one who told me about Goblin Slayer to begin with, and he was like, "Oh, you're best girl." So he's told me different things, and like so early on working on it, he was like, "Oh, I can't wait till the farm arc, like or whatever." So I kind of had an idea from just him telling me stuff. He's also done that for few other shows I'm in. He's like, "Oh, get ready for Maiden Abyss, this part, that part, like blah blah blah." So he's my anime advisor. And then a few fans had sent me for Christmas some of the Goblin Slayer like novels and manga that have like Cowgirl on the cover, like her younger self and stuff. But I haven't gotten to read them yet. But they look pretty cool. So I know like a little bit. I didn't watch the entire show that is out available.
Yeah, awesome.
Well, I can tell you from my perspective, I have not read the light novel or the manga or anything like that, but I have watched the show at least probably 3 times through. Once just in the past like week or so, I binged all 12 episodes like a lot of you did, which was a ton of fun, a great refresher on everything. And then I'm following very closely all the news about the movie coming out because I'm really excited for that. The previews that I've seen for it, I'm just like, oh, wow, that looks so cool. I'm just hoping we get to dub it.
Got a bunch of stuff from Japan for the movie. I think I sent Hayden and Mallory a message because I got stuff of their characters. I just bought like a set of like lottery goods, and I'm like, I'm gonna give these to my friends.
I'm so excited. I was thinking about it this morning. I was like, I wish I had it so I could have the little priestess.
Yeah, it's probably like the same size as that.
Heck yeah.
And yeah. And it's just like, I don't know like what this lottery goods like in Japan. I guess you could buy lottery tickets and you get like this Goblin Slayer stuff for this one event. And so I just happened to get a giant priestess like tapestry. I was like, well, I don't want this.
Wow, you don't want real best girl?
I have the cowgirl ones, so I'm good.
I got sucked in. I mean, you could see I got my little guy up here. That was one of the first purchases, but then I got this guy. I was waiting to go in the studio, and this little guy popped up. One of these little, I don't even know.
I have him too.
I have him in Texas.
Let's see if I can get him up there. Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, I have him too.
And he's got a little goblin that he stomps on, and you can choose his weapon of choice and all that. I was like, that seems pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think most of us have the little Nendroid. I have 2 of the priestess figures because one didn't arrive quick enough, and I got impatient, so I ordered a second one.
My cowgirl's in this box. I just haven't opened it yet.
You could be.
Whoa, is that like
character sleeves? You got that sort of. I don't know if you can see.
She's like blending into your background. But to the question, I didn't know a whole lot going in, but once I was working on the show, I kind of went hog wild and just caught up with the manga, and now I'm like caught up and I read it like as the chapters come out. And I'm probably gonna start on the light novels because I've seen a couple things that are interesting, and just seeing the progression of all the character relationships is really, really cool to me. Right in the manga where they're at in terms of release, they're doing the Goblin's Crown arc, which is what the movie's about. So getting to read that arc is really good. And High Elf Archer has some really, really cool moments. It's really cool, and seeing how all their abilities have like improved, and seeing how they all work together is really interesting. But I love the series. I actually have a little ring that I got custom made that says Holy Light on it.
Nice.
I just wear, and I don't have it, but I have like the Adventurers Guild tag and stuff like that.
Yes, I like it. It's always fun to have a true nerd voicing voicing the series. Well, and that's what's exciting, because the movie I think was supposed to come out in Japan. I feel like February or March, but then with everything that happened, they've obviously delayed it from release. So yeah, I mean, we're so super excited. That's what's so intriguing to me, at least from the first season, is that they don't give much away. It's very straightforward. You know what I mean? It's these adventurers that come together, and Goblin Slayer has one purpose, and that's just to kill goblins.
Is it?
But we're also finding out like little tidbits of things about each character and like what's going on. We get a couple flashbacks. We get some flashbacks with obviously a cowgirl and Goblin Slayer, but we don't know their names. That's why it's the mystery, I think, is what keeps bringing me back personally, and I think what brings folks back. I'd like to talk a little bit about, we mentioned it briefly, just there was a lot of controversy in Japan when this came out, in addition to America, with like the controversial scenes, and a lot of the fans were even sounding off that a lot of it was taken out of context, because when you watch it, within the series, it's graphic, obviously, but I think there is a lot of good versus evil and meaning behind the whole thing. But in terms of being a voice actor in the series, this is specifically from Jamstar 529. And a couple of people are asking similar questions, so apologies if I leave you off here, fans. But what is the challenge, any challenges that you found voicing a show like this, with those depictions of trauma, you know, with that sort of violent background from anyone? I guess just like most challenging scenes or like hardest moments.
I would you know, default to the girls on this, because I mean, I know they had a lot more intense emotional scenes. My guy, you know, Goblin Slayer was just, he was so one note, and it was just seek and destroy, you know. And so you got little glimpses in there of who he is and his background and what drives him to be like that as the series progresses. But I mean, I know that the girls had to go through a lot more emotionally than I did, so I would default to them.
Yeah, I would say Hayden probably had the most emotional episodes, the first episode, and then I think was it 7 or 8?
7.
It was 7. Okay, the Canary episode is the one that I caught it. And there are a couple scenes for High Elf Archer and for Priestess where it was really emotional. And I think Tabitha, our director, she's fantastic. She, you know, helped us kind of get into that emotional space really nicely. But you know, it's definitely heavy and it's tough to do, but you just kind of have to put everything you've got into it and go for it for the sake of the series.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would also default to episode 7. That was a really just rough week for me going into that episode. I just had a grandparent die, and it was just like, oh God. And then I go in to record this ridiculously heavy episode where Priestess is just, that episode for her was just so raw. She was seeing just like her best friend, mentor, and like her friends just going down one after another. And she's just, it was almost like watching her go back to how meek she was in the first episode, just all that trauma coming back to her and then being hit with, hey, cool, your arm's getting bit off. Great. Love it. But honestly, to go off what you said, Mallory, Tabitha made it such a safe space to be vulnerable and to play in that space where it's like, it's okay to just let her rip and just go there. Because if you don't feel like comfortable as an actor, it's hard to like get to that place if you're feeling judged. And it was so a non-judgmental, just this is your space, and it was great.
Awesome, thank you for sharing. A lot of love, maybe is the wrong word, but I love for your work on episode 7, not the plot line. You know what I mean? But yeah, a lot of love out there. The rest of you, I know you weren't in as like compromising positions as characters, but maybe just like fun moments or moments that stuck out to you in the series as while you were voice recording it, and you're like, oh man, okay, there's something going on here.
I just remember, I don't remember which episode it was. Maybe Hayden does. But when Goblin Slayer wants Cowgirl to leave the farm because she's in danger and she's refusing to, and she's like hitting him on the armor and crying and is like, I'm not leaving you. To like, this is my home and this is where I'm staying, and like I wait here for you and this is our home. The kind of like vibe going on there was emotional and nice to like. I feel like Tabitha encouraged me to be grounded as Cowgirl, whereas the Japanese counterpart didn't really always hit that same thing. She was much more higher pitched and childish, and I think that we hit a nice like level of like grounded realism throughout, and I enjoyed that, because instead of making her feel like she's a 15-year-old character, it's like, oh, she's an adult. And I think that was a welcome change to the fan base as well. I think a lot of people are like, yes, this feels better than like a little baby, because she does have a maturity and like almost a maternal instinct to her. I think of like the final episode when she's like petting a Priestess on the head and it's like, you did good and stuff. But when I think about emotional moments, I think of that, and then I think of like Krista McGuire's performance in episode 1.
Oh my God.
And, like, that was really intense. And I remember watching it and being like, damn. I feel like she had a tall order, and she like went above and beyond.
Definitely.
Yeah. As far as which, I wouldn't say anything that was like emotionally traumatic or anything, but so like I'm a theater trained actor, so I learned like Meisner approach, Stanislavski, and all that kind of stuff. So you're taught to like, if you don't know if it is not given to you, your character, you make it up. So because you know the background, blah blah blah, and so you know everything. So Witch, she knows everything. Amanda doesn't. So having to act like I know everything, and so in the scene that like just really gave me chills, just even watching it in the Japanese, was the scene that when Priestess was giving, or Witch was giving Priestess the first, like when she was like taking her and was like, do you want to go with Goblin Slayer? Like, here is like, and knowing now that, you know, she knew Goblin Slayer from before and all this kind of stuff, and just like slowly like trying to get Priestess to basically think for herself and stop going with what everybody's saying, and just because you're, you know, porcelain rank and all this kind of stuff, like you need to be you. And she knows what she's doing, but you know, people, you know, it was hard because at first, because it's like, okay, she's not just sexy, like she is smart and she is powerful, and how am I gonna do that? So just yeah, so like the scene, and like especially when she wastes a spell, because someone who plays a spellcaster, I am so like, all right, how many spells do I have left, all this kind of stuff. So the fact that she lit her pipe with her spell, I was like, whoa. she knows some things, and
Oh, you could
so
definitely,
as far as just like trying to delve down into what she's thinking was definitely a challenge for me. And Hayden was reading like year one, and so like I've started doing research on year one, and I want to start reading the manga just so I can know her background and like really know like more about her and things like that.
There's more to come. No spoilers, Hayden. No spoilers. Brett, I want to bring it back to you really quick. And just a quick reminder to the fans. We unfortunately only have 10 or 12 minutes left in the panel, but you have about 30 minutes left or so. If you'd like to purchase those one-on-one video chats and really dive deep and, you know, ask more specific questions of each actor, those are still on sale for the next half hour. So if you're able, definitely take advantage of them. But Brett, I want to bring it back to you really quick because you wrote yourself off as one note there for a second, not intentionally. But my gosh, like I'd love to just hear about that process a little bit, because to play essentially, it's very, you know, to use a more modern reference, Mandalorian-ish, right? Mm-hmm. It's a fighter who doesn't take off his mask and is reserved, you know, and is socially awkward. But when he does talk, it's so impactful. It's like ridiculous. And I'd just love to hear a little bit about your approach to that, because it could be one note in terms of the actual note, but the subtle nuances that you give to the lines, I think like really set it apart from being just like a basic character and like a character with hidden depth. You know what I mean? Yeah.
No, I appreciate that. It's for me, I mean, because you're dropped right in the middle of the action. I mean, as soon as episode 1 starts, it's almost like the voice actors are having to catch up with all of the emotion that's happening, because we're thrown right in the middle, in the deep end, you know. And for me, I'm figuring it out, and I'm like, man, this guy is just. And when I say one note, the voice was more one note, because it was pretty much that drone monotone voice that we agreed on with me and Tabitha. And I'll get to the bucket later. That's a whole nother story. But it's a secret. It's a studio secret.
Is that how you make the echoey sound? Come on. Yeah.
This is the secret to Goblin Slayer right here. This bucket is the secret, the magic behind the entire character. It's all in a bucket. But yeah, so but no, I mean, when I say one note, that's more of the vocal delivery, but what I mean is focused. Yeah. And when I was getting into the character, I'm doing these episodes and I'm going, what is driving him? Literally just all he thinks about day in, day out is killing goblins. I mean, it's really his mission in life. And where did that hatred stem from? Where did it start? And so when we got further down in the episodes, and it flashes back to when he's a child underneath the beams in the floor, and he's watching his family get murdered, and the blood is dripping on his face. You know, I was for that moment, for me alone, I go, there's the motivation. There's where it started. There's where it happened. And it all came full circle for me to where he's literally got blinders on, and it's just, that's his mission.
Brett, I have to do this to you now because you showed us the bucket. And there's a question from Cool76249. Obviously, Goblin Slayer likes to repeat himself, with intention. Is there a favorite bucket line that you can get?
Leslie, I don't even know if I can do that. I don't know if I can pull this off.
They want to know on Twitch the highest number of goblin kills. Yeah, and your favorite line to repeat over and over again.
I see. I see. I see. That was it. If I got paid per IC line, I'd be good.
You'd be good.
But yeah, the whole thing in the studio was a bucket, and it was a Christmas, I think popcorn.
Yeah, it was like one of those Christmas caramel corn buckets.
Yeah, one of those things. Yeah, and I mean my career started with Power Rangers and VR Troopers, so I've been doing ADR for a long time and a lot of dubs, and I'm used to being a guy in a helmet. So it's funny that came full circle, 20 some odd years later. I'm like, oh, really? Me in a helmet again? But I think I had the easiest out of everybody because I never had flaps. So for me, it was just like, that was easy. But the hard part is we would do one take, me on the microphone. Yeah. And then the next take we do with the bucket to get the, that reverb, that echo sound out of the bucket. So I'd have to dub twice as much. I'd have to do each line 2 different ways. So that drug on for a little while.
I like that you picked IC because that moment actually got called out specifically by Priestess. It's like, forget the tag live. It's like you only say 2 things or whatever.
Yeah. And that's just because when I don't know the answer, I go to IC. Sure. I can't be right. I can't be wrong. It's just IC. I hear you.
Well, and it's a good point. It's a good point because, and there's a lot of, for those that aren't watching something, we have a lot of like anime fans that just like to check these out and figure out what's the new cool series to watch. It's been super dark. We've been talking a lot of dark, and the first episode, super, super dark, but like stick with it because some of the humor that then comes out to kind of offset the darkness are some of the best moments as well. I mean, gosh, there's a whole run on ice cream that was like, I was not ready for. Yeah. And I was like, this is brilliant. It's both. It's everything.
Mm-hmm.
I love the lizard priest loving cheese.
Cheese.
Oh He's so good.
So cute.
Yes.
This is for, I guess it's for a few of you. It's actually specifically sent to Mallory from Wheeljack83, but it involves High Elf Archer, Cowgirl, and Priestess. Speaking of some of those fun... Trope is a terrible word. The moments in anime that often happen. We definitely have a love triangle going on, and fans love nothing more, myself included, than creating our version of what we think is the best matchup or the best ship, as we say. So Wheeljack wants to know from all of you what your opinion is currently. Who's got the number 1 spot on the love connection with? Is it High Elf Archer, Cowgirl, or Priestess? The final begin. I don't know.
Obviously, Cowgirl.
I was wondering who they were going to throw that to.
I really wanted to be High Elf Archer, and I think it's pretty interesting because she talks about, I still don't like Goblin Slayer. She has that sort of pessimistic sort of attitude, but I think underneath of that, there may be something. But if I'm being a pragmatist, it's probably Cowgirl, but I still think High Elf Archer is the best girl.
As someone who reads the light novels, Priestess is winning. As someone who reads the light novels, sorry, but I'm winning.
Man.
I mean, no, absolutely not. But so as someone on the outside looking in, I am gonna have to go with Priestess. I just,
No love for Cowgirl, Brittany. No love for
Mallory agreed.
I mean, which is for Priestess too. So he knows everything.
We don't even have Sword Maiden in there. I completely forgot about that for a second. My gosh. Well, that's what's so interesting about this series is there's so we see it from the Goblin Slayer's perspective in terms of I'm only going on Goblin Quest, but we've got this whole other world out there, right? Of heroes, and we don't know a lot about Witch and her and the my gosh, I'm going to misquote the name. Who's your fighter again that you're with?
Spearman.
That's right.
Spearman, yeah.
Yeah, we don't know like a lot about their relationship either and sort of what they go off and do. So my gosh, like where it could expand is
I think year 1 goes into that.
Yeah, year one and the Just Another Day manga, because that Just Another Day is a lot of like the side adventures and the side characters. Year one is like Goblin Slayer's like early days, which is cool. And you actually find out in that manga that Priestess, when she was little baby, she actually met Goblin Slayer when he came to the temple she was trained at. And she doesn't remember him.
Told you. She knows everything. I told you.
I am just Goblin Slayer encyclopedia.
Like,
Yeah. My gosh, this is amazing. Cool. Well, listen, we've got 5 minutes left, and my gosh, just one season and already so much to just talk about and chat about. I'd love to just kind of go around the room. And again, reminder to the fans really quick, you have about 15 to 20 minutes to purchase those one-on-one video chats with this amazing voiceover cast if you are interested. But there's a bunch of questions about just voice acting in general. Any tips you have for the fans watching out there? Specific question from James Brown Jr., Virginia. I don't know if that's James Brown Jr.
I was just about to do that, Brad.
Yeah, I know. Who knows? But James Brown Jr. in Virginia would like to know how your role in how your roles in playing D&D, but then also your voiceover roles in Goblin Slayer have helped you with other anime work besides Goblin Slayer. So I know that was a loaded setup there, but basically a shout out to the fans from each of you, and then just any fun advice or tips you have for any aspiring voiceover actors out there.
I guess I'll jump in. I can't really comment to the D&D stuff, but it was nice for me to take a character all the way through to the end of the season. I've done a couple of other leads on Funimation, but and to see that arc, that character arc as a voice actor, and see it come to the end of season 1, and hopefully there'll be season 2. But to see that to follow that all the way through was really exciting. It was really exciting because sometimes, and as voice actors, we get dropped in to a storyline. Like I've done One Piece several times, but it's like you're always getting just a little small dose of that series and that character. So to follow it all the way through to completion of season 1, that was the most exciting part, to be able to hold that character and, take it all the way through the end. So, and, with the upside of maybe we will get to do the movie or season 2. And that's, what I'm just really excited. Cause I'd love to work with all these girls again. It was a great experience. It was just looking back, it's too short. And so I'm ready to go round 2.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh man. Honestly, in terms of like using like acting with D&D, I think for me, it just makes it really fun because depending on what kind of character you're playing, you get to it's honestly just like testing your vocal range, because I'm like, cool, well, I play a little gnome barbarian. She's high-pitched and British. And it's just kind of like, it's playtime.
Yeah.
For like me as an actor, like to just kind of jump in and try different things. In terms of like tips, for me, a big thing was I grew up doing theater, like children's theater, like high school theater, community, stuff like that, seeking out voiceover specific classes. There's right now is actually, it's not a great time in terms of life, but quarantine, there's a lot of online voice acting classes out there right now. I'm from Canada. I'm in Canada right now. I studied at On the Mic voiceover training in Vancouver, and they're doing actually online classes right now, and they're not too pricey. I know Bang Zoom in California is doing online classes right now. So there's a lot of different avenues. Like you just have to Google it. Honestly, Google it, go on Twitter, do your research, because sometimes classes are not what they seem. So make sure you're getting your bang for your buck. But honestly, you can practice reading out loud.
Yeah.
And just know that Priestess is best girl. That's all I got.
There's already a lot of chatter about best girl fights are going on the Twitch stream.
Good.
Amazing. Well, I'll say playing High Elf Archer was just a dream come true for me. I think I get cast as a lot of typically like lower voices or super breathy kind of characters, but she has such a spunk to her. And, Tabitha, I think really brought that out in my voice, and I adored it. She honestly is one of my favorite characters that I've ever voiced. So I feel
Society,
of course. Yes. I can't forget Brittany Cho of Hensky. But in terms of advice, I love telling the story because I think it's pretty interesting. I would say patience is a virtue when it comes to voiceover. When I wanted to get in with Funimation, I found this random email address and I emailed it. And I heard nothing. I said, hey, I can do Walla, which is kind of background noises. I can be there in 30 minutes. Nothing for a year, and then another year, and then another year. And 4 years later, they finally emailed me back. And it turns out my name was on a list that whole time. And that was my foot in the door. So you may get discouraged. You may want to give up, but keep going, persevere. That's what I would say.
Very cool. Thank you, Mallory.
I feel like for me, my very first role like at Funimation was in an anime called Sir Vamp, and it was like this sister character, and she was like a high school, but she was a ghost, and so that was like my first role. And then my first like named role was actually in an anime called Keijo, and it was very low, and I was like, because like I never thought of my voice as being medium to low because I was trained in opera and I'm actually a first soprano when I sing. So I was like, interesting. So Witch was actually the first character I auditioned for to actually get. Like, I mean, I had auditioned, but wouldn't get cast in it. But Witch was the first one that I actually auditioned for her and got her. So that was something that, and like what Mallory was saying, definitely like, because persevere, because I was like, I think I do have a pretty decent medium to low range, which I never really thought about. So, and since then I actually have been getting cast as like lower, more sexier roles, which are super fun, and I do enjoy them. And it, as far as tips and things like that, for me, what has really kept me like going and thinking about it is I don't think of what we're doing as specifically voice acting. Like I think of it as just acting. Like we're actors. While there are different ways that you portray when you're voice acting versus on stage versus in front of on camera and things like that, there are a little bit of differences. So yeah, if you want to voice act, that's cool, but don't forget that you're an actor first. And definitely get the basics of acting. Like acting 101 is like where you need to start. I highly recommend reading anything from, like I said, what I was saying earlier, from the theater perspective is Stanislavski or Meisner, because those are two different acting approaches that you can think of. One's very method and one's not quite so method, which I prefer the not quite so method because reasons. But yeah, definitely acting 101. And when things get better, even starting community theater, things like that, just to practice acting. And yeah.
Very cool. Thank you, Amanda. Brittany?
So Cowgirl was nice because she was really grounded and like real in a lot of ways. But she also fits the childhood friend trope. And I felt like, I think I made a post somewhere around that time where I played like 4 or 5 characters in a row that were just like the childhood friend-zoned type. And I was like, And they were all very similar in my range too, where it's like, oh, they have this like sweeter sound to them and like grounded, like maybe unrequited love thing going on. So that was funny. And I feel like I like between Cowgirl and Ichigo and Darling and the Franxx and some other characters thrown in there around that time that we were recording Goblin Slayer, I was like, I think I'm getting better at this, like this character type. But I have so much I can say about voice acting advice. Like I said before, I do a lot of directing and I cast stuff, and so I have a lot of opinions. But I would say, as Amanda was saying, like it's acting, not just voice acting. So focus on creating those acting foundations. Whether it's just like practicing reading out loud, or like maybe you read some comic books out loud and try different characters and stuff. But remember that these characters are characters, and they have more aspects to them than just a voice. They're like fully fleshed beings in their stories. And so they should be approached that way. Not every like character is just a cookie cutter and an archetype. And you might feel like that sometimes in anime, like, oh, this is just the like grumpy character, and this is your typical harem lead. But like, try and dig deeper, because that's going to be where you create more and you find out more about what you're capable of and your acting range. And stuff. I mentioned jokingly with Mallory, the Sayuki character from Hensky, but like we dug into that character. We made her so fun. Like instead of just being like, oh, she's the character who's the older type who has big boobs, like we made her like so fleshed out and let her bounce all over in her range, and like that makes it interesting. So like not only act first, but like try to make interesting choices, because that's going to make you memorable. And even if you don't get that audition you're going for, like I keep track of the people I work with, and I like have a mental checklist of like, oh, this person would be really good in this, and this person's really good at this, and like I just haven't gotten something for them yet. Doesn't mean that they're like out of sight, out of mind. Like there's so many people that I haven't had the pleasure of really getting to dig into a role yet. But like if I watch something, sometimes I'm just like, you know who'd be great at this? Like this person. It's just not my thing to cast. So like remember that you're on people's minds more than you might think.
Some amazing advice from all of you. My gosh, the directing side of it from Brittany, the acting side of it from Amanda. An amazing story about perseverance, Mallory. Hayden, you're the expert behind all this. And Brad, thank you for bringing that bucket, because that was huge as well.
All my talent right here. My talent is in this bucket.
Oh my gosh. If you haven't binged this series yet, it's the perfect time to do so. Just go to Amazon. You can find all the episodes, both in Japanese and the dub. Watch them both. We are so excited, and good luck to all of you. We will be looking out for Goblin's Crown, the film, when that comes out in season 2, and fingers crossed you all join us and continue on with us through 7 glorious seasons. I'm calling it at 7, I don't know why, of Goblin Slayer. But definitely check it out if you're a huge anime fan or manga fan like myself. Go check out that series. Thank you all 5 of you, for spending your time with us today. It's super awesome. We're gonna let you go to head to your one-on-one video chat rooms, which you can still purchase if you're watching at home. But let's hear one more big digital applause. I want to see applause emojis, the thumbs, the hearts out there for this amazing voiceover actor talent. Brad Hawkins, Hayden Davio, Mallory Rodak, Amanda Gish, Brittany Lotta, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for joining. It was
Thank
so
you,
fun.
guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody. What an amazing group of actors. It was a pleasure talking to them about what is a very cool series. Go check it out. I think it has a potential, again, like I said, me personally, to go on and spawn season after season and movie after movie of amazing anime. So definitely check that out. As I mentioned, you've got about 15 to 20 minutes or so to purchase those one-on-one video chats. So if you had a more specific question about a particular episode or a particular character, or some of their amazing other work that they've done in the past, other anime series, obviously, and film and TV shows, definitely purchase those one-on-one video chats. And then also know that the video recorded messages and also autographs will be on sale throughout the evening. And then after tonight, as always, make sure to head to the Wizard World Vault, where we place all of our previously signed autographs and photos and artwork and memorabilia. They're there at the wizardworldvault.com. Let me see if there's any questions in Twitch right now. Cool, just a lot of love, a lot of fun, fun emojis out there. So thanks once again on behalf of Wizard World. Please follow us at Wizard World on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for all those upcoming experiences. If you like anime, definitely stick around. We've got the cast of Assassination Classroom coming up. We're speaking to Power Rangers Time Force on Saturday, May 16th. Upcoming this week is the cast of Charmed and Dallas on Tuesday. So definitely come back for that. We're expanding out into sports as well. So come see the stars of the 1996 Yankees next Sunday, May 17th, followed by Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide and Versailles. A lot more to announce, a lot more coming up. So just continue to follow us on social media at Wizard World. My name is Mike G. You can follow me at Mike G Does Things to check out some of the other interviews that we've done in the past, to ask your questions there for these panels. Dragon Prince, that's right. Oh my gosh, we just announced Dragon Prince as well. Thank you, Dips to Raven. Dragon Prince on the 19th, just announced. So definitely come back for that as well. But that's it for me. Stay safe, stay healthy. If you have to go outside, do wear a mask. Shout out to all the first responders and essential workers out there. This has been another Wizard World virtual experience, streaming to you live to the comfort and safety of your home. Have a great afternoon, everyone.